The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
My name is Joan Kestner, and I'm the newly designated chair of the Erie County Harbor Development Corporation. And I want to welcome everybody in attendance and our distinguished board members, Sam Capitano, Mike Vogel, our president, Mark Wendell, Leslie Zemsky, Connie Leiden, and Eric Wright. And representing our county is Dan Castle. Thank you very much. Absent today is Shatora Donovan. And also we don't have a representative from the city as of yet. And I also want to thank all of the ECHDC staff and ESD staff that help us put this all together. We appreciate, and especially Debbie Royce. She keeps us all on our toes. We thank you, Debbie, for the hard work led to this agenda. And now I'd like to call to order the meeting of the directors of the Erie Canal Harbor Corporation for Monday, November 13th, 2023. I'd like to note for the record that this meeting is being webcast. We welcome public comment on today's agenda. I will note for the record that the public was given the opportunity to comment on the agenda items by submitting their written comments by 9 a.m. today. I'd like to state for the record that no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda items. I also will note that we do not have members of the public attending today's meeting. The directors have received the relevant written material in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I would like to ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any agenda items. If so, I would ask you to please make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time.
I would like to recuse myself from item number 4.
Okay.
Due to a longstanding working relationship with others, landscape nursery.
Okay, we will then be sure that you may recuse yourself from any discussion or vote regarding such act on tonight. Okay, so our first order of business is the approval of the minutes of the directors' meeting of September 26, 2023. And the approval of the minutes, Board of Directors. Any questions, comments, additions, or deletions? If not, I will entertain a motion to approval. Eric, second.
Second.
Sam. All right, here. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Now I'd like to call Mark Wendell, our recent appointed president, to present the remaining items on today's agenda. Please start off with an authorization for the corporation to enter into a management agreement in connection with the public space at the Buffalo waterfront. Mark, when you're ready.
Thank you, Joan, and good morning to the board. The 3 items that we're talking today is the public space management agreement, the facility management agreement, and the grounds maintenance agreement. And each one of those will be for their separate contracts, but they handle both canal side and the outer harbor. And as I say, before we brought these items to the board, each recommended contractor pursuant to state finance law and the corporation's policy related, we considered the proposed contractor's ability to perform the services provided in the proposed contract, and we consulted the list of offers determined to be non-responsible bidders, debarred, and offers maintained by the New York State Office of General Services. So we reviewed each contract before we brought forward for these recommendations. So now on with the public space management. As ECHCC creates more structures and open space that are created for the public access, a third-party operator is required to manage and utilization of spaces and maintain the overall activity schedule. Over the years, numerous local community groups have utilized Canal Side and the Outer Harbor for large events. We've hosted a number of concerts, both nationally and local. And we've also had a lot of smaller scale events utilized for yoga classes, boat tours, athletic clinics, and history lessons. On January 19th, 2023, ECHCC advertised for the public space management opportunity in the New York State contract report. On April 20th, 2023, ECHCC received and opened 2 proposals, both consisting of hospitality-focused management firms. These proposals were reviewed and scored by the selection committee, and a top-ranked team was selected. For the record, the 2 firms that were interviewed were BR Guest Limited, doing business as the Rich Entertainment Group, and OVG 360, which is also known as Oakview Group. At this time, if you're putting forth Rich Entertainment Group as the preferred vendor, Rich Entertainment Group has managed the Outer Harbor since 2016 and the Canal Side since 2017. Over the course of these contracts, they have adapted and thrived in a changing landscape as new construction projects commenced and large events were shifted from Canal Side to the Outer Harbor, as well as our not-for-profit 5K walks. REG understands the need to provide new and exciting events and programs to maintain public interest in the Buffalo waterfront. And to date, they have worked collaboratively with our organization as we move forward in determining what's best for the community. Under this contract, the operator will continue to provide necessary services, including but not limited to the scope of work as described. The VR team will continue to be responsible for operations and maintenance related to the hospitality services, programming, and event management, food and beverage services, merchandise opportunities, marketing and sponsorship, and advertising, and financial management of Canal Side as further defined in their agreement and as outlined further in these board items. The management agreement term is 7 years. It'll start April 1st, 2024 and conclude May 31st, 2031. And include a maximum of 1 4-year extensions at ECHCC's sole discretion. This is a revenue generating contract and has no cost to Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation. Percentage of the profits will be allocated from REG to ECHCC. And the terms of this agreement will include base flat fee that increases each year, a percentage of gross sponsorship, a percentage of gross revenue, and a portion of live event ticket sales. And I can let you know that as we have outlined the more detailed information in the board minutes, this is an increased percentages and revenues from our previous contract. And we expect that these revenue shares will help assist with coverage of utilities that at both locations. ECHCC will work closely with REG on the operation of events, sales and marketing initiatives, and review their financials regularly. REG has maintained ECHCC standards for site cleanliness, security, customer service, operations, aesthetics program, and event management to date, as well as branding and marketing. REG will have sponsorship rights on events, daily activities, and select locations at Canal Side and the Outer Harbor. And all details of this will be finalized in the management agreement we will enter into following today's decision. All costs associated with this management and production of events shall be directly assumed by the operator. For the purposes of the solicitation, Empire State Development hereby established an overall goal of 0% for MWB participation, as this is a revenue generating contract. Empire State Development staff has determined that the action, which involves entering into a contract for continuing operations, programming, and maintenance of the Buffalo waterfront with no substantial changes in an existing structure facility, constitutes a Type 2 action as defined by the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act and the implementing regulations for the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. And no further environmental review is required at this time for this contract and for the subsequent 2. So at this time, the directors are requested to make a determination of responsibility with respect to proposed consultant, authorize the corporation to enter into a public space management agreement with BR Guest Limited, doing business as the Rich Entertainment Group, and take all related actions.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to this item?
I appreciate what BR Guest has done in operating the skating rink in the past. I have a couple thoughts that I wanted to share, recommendations. I think Canal side is fortunate to be home to New York State's largest outdoor ice rink. And as the staff enters into the public space management agreement with the operator, I am recommending that the rink be open 7 days a week during the skating season and then market those expanded hours. And I did a little research. This would be in keeping with similar rinks in Rochester, their urban rink, and New York City, and frankly, Southern Ontario. The rinks in Toronto are all open daily and they're free. Let's increase the public access and bring visitors to Canal side on a daily basis in the winter, as we aim to do in the summer. And then I would also encourage management in the management agreement to expand the access to weather protected space to change in and out of skates and store shoes while skating. Really, in general, to take a visitor friendly, visitors first approach to how they operate the rink, and let's celebrate winter in Buffalo.
Thank you, Leslie. I think that's definitely information that we'll bring forward as we enter the meeting.
I have a quick question. I don't want to skip ahead to item number 3, but item 2 and 3, the recommendation is the same vendor, yet the contract periods are very different. One is a 5-year contract with two-year extensions. One is a 7-year contract with a 4-year extension. What's the
1 year?
Yeah, exactly. What is the thinking of why we want to align them specifically because it's the same vendor, and we'd want to make sure that we can either continue or find another vendor and not have that lag period where we're sort of stuck with the additional years. It doesn't go as we hope.
So on the contract terms, this is something that we put forth in the RFP. So we followed when we put out the RFPs back in, as I mentioned, I think January of this year. The idea was the length of the RFP for public space was there to attract multiple bidders. We succeeded in getting 2, but we did not get as many as we thought. And so that was kind of a term length that we heard that would be enticing to others. And I would say that when we did, just to go back, when we did smaller ones at 3 years terms, we only got 1 bidder. So at least we succeeded in getting 2. As far as aligning, we aligned up, we weren't sure. We interviewed both teams for all contracts. We weren't sure if we're going to pick the same person. We interviewed both groups with the intent of if we were going to pick the best submission for each contract. So whether or not they were aligned wasn't the initial thing, but we were trying to really, for the public space, really entice a group. An Oakview Group is a national, very large entertainment, hospitality service client that was interested, but they just didn't align with the process we wanted. And then we aligned the maintenance aspects, the building maintenance and the grounds maintenance contracts, because those are for the upkeep. So we wanted to keep that going. But we increased we increased the public space because we were hoping to get more interest into these proposals. And that's what we're hearing from an industry, is that kind of length. And we just wanted, and that's why we have different options, where the options we could go into 2 years, that would bring it up to all the same standard of contract, if we want to extend those at the end. Okay.
I questioned something very similar to that as well. And also the fact that we have some flexibility if they're not performing up to our standards. I would like to, we have a new board here, we have different interests, and that we would have some flexibility in the event that they don't live up to our. We would have opportunities to discuss our concerns as well as maybe go elsewhere. And I was assured by Mark, he looked into our legal, that we would have that type of that protection, I would say, because we all have ideas here, and it's going to adjust. It's going to adjust everything that they're used to. Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the boards with regard to this item? Yes.
I have an additional one.
Okay.
7 years is a really long contract time. It's very hard for me to accept 7 years, even though that may be the industry standard right now. So I just want to make sure that I understand the yearly performance review of the ESD. How is that going to happen?
So what we would meet with their staff. I mean, we over the past years under their current contract, they would come in close to quarterly. We do have monthly meetings with them as we plan their events, and we plan as they currently have building maintenance, but we also have plans for calendar promotion, what can be happening for the summertime, those stands out. But it's beyond that, we meet with them quarterly to understand the financial situation. How are they doing with staffing? How is it going on with attendance at these events? we have in their previous contracts, reflected. We have a good base knowledge of what has been utilized, what has been completed, what needs to be changed, and shifted to adjust to what is the ever-changing environment of interests, I should say, by the public. So we do meet with them quarterly. We take in those reports, and that's information that we can make part of information to share. But we do meet with them quarterly on financials. We meet with them monthly on how are things going out there, what is going on, especially as we prepare for the summer months that are more active. We do meet with their staff very frequently. And some of our staff below me, our staff meet with them.
Would you be able to provide a once-a-year review to the board of their performance?
I believe I can. I think, if we look into it, I believe I can.
I'd like to encourage this board as well, that if you have concerns about something, like Leslie brought up about the ice rink, please bring it to my attention, so when we have those meetings, we can address them. Thank you.
One more question. In the proposal, it said they will market the activities at Canal side or Outer Harbor. When you get into a management agreement, do you get into more of the nitty gritty of what does the word marketing mean? It could be, well, we did one post on social media, or we did film. It's a pretty broad range. So how do you come to agreement on the level of marketing?
That is something that we work both with Jesse O'Shea, who is our branding marketing person, whether it's what level of does it need to rise to press release to get more publication, updates all the way down to social media. So we do, and we do work with our other press agents in the building to determine what level of release. And I think your guest in the past has utilized both. We've had utilized billboards. We've put out commercials sometimes for announcements, but we have tried to work through all the different levels based on what event is going to be. So we do go through a process of understanding. Because we want to get that information out there, whether it's the 5K we work with, if it's with a third party, we work with the host of a 5K run to help with their promotion because they have their own promotion team. But we work to make sure we collaborate to make it so it's as successful as it like it to be.
As noted earlier, we don't have any comments for the public with regard to this item. Anything more from the board? Right. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make that motion.
Second? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Mark will now present the authorization for the corporation to enter into contract for facilities management services, again related to the public space at the Buffalo Water. Mark?
Thank you, Joan. Again, this is for the maintenance of our existing structures that we have been placing at the Outer Harbor and Canal side. And stewardship of this property is very critical in protecting the investment that Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation has put out at both locations. So this operation and maintenance systems have been developed to ensure that ground facilities are well maintained, safe, and functional. That property adaptation and repair is frequently required to meet changing and programmatic needs and to withstand deterioration from age, heavy use, and environmental impact. The O&M and capital projects often require professional architectural engineering services to assess plans, scope, budget, and execute the various projects that take place. On January 19th, 2023, ECHC advertised for facilities management opportunity in the New York State Contract Reporter. On May 4th, 2023, ECHC received and opened 2 proposals, both consisting of facilities management firms. These proposals were reviewed and scored by the selection committee, and both facility teams were interviewed by the selection committee to better understand the team organization and their approach. I should say that we met with both teams at least 3 or 4 times to make sure that we understood that they understood the scope of work that they had to serve with both the existing facilities and what new structures will be bringing online for the next couple of years during this contract. The 2 groups that we interviewed were Be Our Guests Limited, doing business as a Rich Entertainment Group, and OVG 360, also known as Oakview Group. As we mentioned for the previous item, REG has managed Canal side since 2017 and the Outer Harbor since 2016. And they have understood the changing environment, especially with our construction that has been bringing on new items like the long shed during their current contract, and as we are bringing on more facilities at the Outer Harbor. We're excited that this team includes Seminole Real Estate Corporation to fulfill the property maintenance scope of work outlined in the Facilities Management Service RFP. Seminole's responsibilities will include building management software, engineering services, and vendor sourcing. And REG will manage the overall contract with the day-to-day operations and all subcontractors and seasonal transition scope of work. I will say that Seminole will also be providing in their team a full-time engineer that will be on staff in our office where the chiller is housed for the ice rink to make sure that the building Explore More is functioning and that the ice remains chilled. Another partner for REG is Marshall's Master Cleaning Plus to fulfill the janitorial scope of work outlined in the Facilities Management Agreement or Service RFP. Marshall's is a certified minority-owned business and is veteran-owned. They will provide general services for the properties and restrooms outlined in the scope of work. The scope of the facility management services will include all staffing, materials, fuels, and supplies required for general operations and maintenance of buildings, structures, utility systems, the rink, the fountain, public spaces, furniture, and equipment, vehicles, capital project management, seasonal transitions, and daily custodian services as well. Scope of services may include, but not limited to, the operation, maintenance, cleaning, repair, and preventive maintenance, also renovation, slight addition or modification to the structures and property systems. As we outlined, so the teams will collaborate with REG and Seminole, and they'll work to integrate and understand our mechanical systems at our buildings. To outline, our structures are at Canal side, the Long Shed, the Explore More Children's Museum, obviously the rink, the fountain, and the waterfall that is adjacent to the Long Shed. At the Outer Harbor, obviously, we have more construction going on out there that will be brought online with our entertainment venue at Terminal B, the bike park, bathrooms at Bell Slip, as well as our future building that's starting construction at Wilkeson Point. The contract will cover fees and expenses for a period of 5 years, ending March 31st, 2029. It starts April 1st, 2024. The contract amount is not to exceed $11,224,060. That includes a base fee of $9,724,060 plus a contingency of $1,500,000. The contract term will be for 5 years, and at the end of the 5 years, ECHC shall have the option to enter into 2 additional 2-year extensions. The 2-year extensions will expire on March 31st, 2031 and March 31st, 2033, respectively. The project is funded by the New York Power Authority. And I will add on the split of things, in the base contract, there is allowances that are included to help address improvements or mechanical issues of the systems immediately. The contingency is only there if over the 5 years, if there's additional projects or additional things that need to be renovated under their contract that we, ECHC, at our discretion, would then utilize. ESD's non-discrimination and contractor and supplier diversity policy will apply to this contract. There will be a MWBE participation goal of 30% and STVOB participation goal of 3%. So at this time, the directors are requested to make a determination of responsibility with respect to the proposed consultant, authorize the corporation to enter into a contract with BR Guest Limited, doing business as the Rich Entertainment Group, for an amount not to exceed a base contract of $9,724,060, plus a contingency of $1,500,000, for a total contract amount of $11,224,060.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to this item?
Thank you. Mark, I have a question regarding in developing the scope of work. Was a current inventory of existing conditions of furniture, site lighting, walkways taken into account?
Yes, and I'll say this, that there was a capital in the RFP included an outline of what we have. And the intent is once we have, not knowing who we're going to move forward, because as we put this out for RFP, we were not thinking that it would be the same person to move forward. But that we would catalog at the end for this RFP, but also walk the site and catalog again with the new vendor to try to make sure that we are consistent with the aesthetic and appropriate number of facilities that need. We're talking about garbage receptacles, or the cleanliness or board replacement. So that will be once we have them under contract. We will do a walkthrough of the sites with the new vendors because this team, although our guest was there, they have new people on here with Simonelli and Marshall, so they need to be familiar with their facilities. So that it will take place after they're under contract.
One more comment.
Yes.
So it'll be a walkthrough, but it will be photographically documented so
We'll
that
make
we can
sure.
refer back.
Yes.
I have a question. The length of the contract is such that the odd block will either be finished or substantially finished by the time this contract ends. Is the responsibility of the public spaces on the odd block of go with the private developer, or are they contemplated in this contract?
With the private developer.
With the developer.
Yes.
So the Piazza spaces are all.
That's all owned. They will own that land all around. They will be responsible, but we will, I'm sure they might work with them, but this contract does take into place the contracts that are under construction, like at Wilson Point that have not started, as well as the Gateway building that is built for the ECACC. That is part of this contract. That the maintenance and facilities is in there as well.
I have a question. As we all hope, for instance, the Outer Harbor, that as new things happen there and the concert things, more and more visitors are there. So for instance, the cleaning company, will it be, I don't know the level of detail you get into with the management agreement, but let's say really the bathrooms only need to be cleaned once a day now, but it changes over time. So the scope of some of the things could change because of increased usage.
I believe the RFP actually requires for a higher level of attendance, especially in the summer months and spring months. So we identified in the RFP that we expect a number of visits to the public restrooms in fewer times in the winter months when they're shut down.
Questions? All right, as noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I now entertain a motion for approval. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Before I move on to the other, we've been joined by a representative from the city. Our deputy mayor would introduce yourself to our board.
Yes, hi everyone, I'm Dr. Callie Johnson. I'm here on behalf of Mayor Brown. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming and thank the mayor for us. All right. Thank you again. The motion carries. And Mark, please continue and present the final item on today's agenda. A request for the corporation to enter into a grounds management service contract, also in connection for the public space at the Buffalo Waterfront.
Thank you, Joe. As we mentioned before, stewardship of our property is very important as we invest in both the Canal side and the Outer Harbor. And with the Outer Harbor, we have mostly landscape and natural settings that need to be maintained. So this grounds contract will help maintain and keep safe and functional the developments that we have improved out at our harbor, as well as the landscaping that we have at Canal side. This contract will help with property adaptation and minor landscape repair as needed to meet the programmatic needs and withstand deterioration from age and use and environmental impact. Capital projects require expert recommendations, as we previously stated, utilizing professional architectural and engineering services to assess, plan, scope, budget, and execute various projects. But the expectations of the grounds team is to continue to preserve the beauty of the landscape at both the Outer Harbor and Canal side. On January 19th, 2023, ECACC advertised for the grounds management opportunity in the New York State Contract Reporter. On May 4th, 2023, ECACC received and opened 2 proposals, both consisting of grounds management firms. These proposals were reviewed and scored by the selection committee, and both ground management teams were interviewed by the selection committee to better understand the team and the organization and their approach. Again, we had multiple meetings with both entities to make sure they understood the scope of work required by our RFP. 2 firms that were interviewed were Elber's Landscape Service and Busy Beaver Lawn and Garden. Elber's Landscape has proven experience in grounds management, particularly in contexts similar to the scope of work required for the grounds management contract. Over the years, Elber's has provided its expertise in landscaping, grounds maintenance, and care to various public space clients that include Niagara University, Canisius College, as well as they've been our site contractor, maintenance contractor at the Lakeside Bike Park at the Outer Harbor currently. Elber's landscape staff and management team have showed a great attention to the landscape details of the ECACC sites. In particular, they displayed a level of professionalism that accounts for a great understanding of ECACC's vision for the public spaces. The scope of ground management services will include all staffing, materials, fuels, and supplies required for groundskeeping services, lawns, landscapes, trees, shrubs, seasonal horticulture, snow removal, grounds and landscaping capital projects, management, and seasonal transitions and invasive species management throughout the property. The grounds manager will be responsible for waste removal, shoreline and trail maintenance, and actually it will not be janitorial service, but they will, as far as in talking with them, as far as janitorial services, the site contractor, if they see garbage in the lawn, they will pick it up before they mow. That was one of the things. And we will not be shredding garbage as we maintain our landscaping. But also that's not mentioned in here, besides just the natural settings of the Outer Harbor, they'll also maintain and look at our planters, our trees and everything that are planted in the canal side, as well as the grass landscaping. The contract will cover fees and expenses for a period of 5 years, ending on March 31st, 2029. Again, it will begin April 1st, 2024. The total contract amount shall not exceed a total of $3,016,561, with a base contract plan of $2,516,561, plus a contingency of $500,000. The contract term shall be for 5 years. At the end of 5 years, ECACC shall have the option to enter into 2 additional 2-year extensions. And this project is funded by the New York Power Authority. Under them, this project will also hope the non-discrimination and contractor supplier diversity policy will apply to this contract. There will be an MWBE participation goal of 30% and an SDVOB participation goal of 3%. The directors are requested at this time to make a determination of responsibility with respect to the proposed consultant. Authorize the corporation to enter into a contract with Elber's Landscape Service Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $2,516,561 plus a contingency of $500,000 for a total contract amount of $3,016,561. Again, as I reiterated, the contingencies are at the discretion of ECACC.
Thank you, Mark. Need some water?
I am going to.
Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to this item?
I just have one question, Mark. It's nice you put in, I'm glad you put in the invasive species part of this. I'm just curious what their experience is with the native plant species that you'll be planting out there. Or are they helping to determine what plants to use when they're restoring areas, or will they just be doing what is in the plans or specs that's been prepared?
I think as I mentioned, Elber's is currently on our Lakeside Bike Park and contracted some of our other sites, the Great Lawn. And as we have developed our plans for, especially with Wilkinson Point going forward, we have had conversations with Elber's on what is taking root, what is taking. So we've made some modifications with Elber's information to the designers. So there is they have been very informative to us as in providing our designers the information they need to figure out what's established, what helps us maintain to make sure that what we have designed is takes root.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we all know that it's a really important flyway for birds, migrating birds, butterflies, and others that you really need to have some of the right plants there at the time, not necessarily what might work in New York City or what might be a nice ornamental because of the color you want.
I think we've had a good relationship with the landscape architects who have been on the site. They brought in a good number of natural species and other things to create those kind of butterfly habitat. But also now that we've had some years of maintenance on things, that feedback is starting to funnel in. It's becoming a shared relationship of what both is established and what maybe modifications can go in the future.
Thank you.
I think I would just add for the record that even though she's recused herself from this discussion, Connie is probably ready to explode over there. We do have a landscape architect who will be very active, I'm sure, with the landscaping contract.
I figured.
Can we hear from Connie without her voting? Is that conflict or how does that work?
Yes.
Oh, she's not, I'm sorry, she's not really supposed to be able to join in a discussion with this when she recuses, I'm sorry.
Any questions? Right. As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval. So moved. Second?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, thank you. The motion carries, and I want to thank everyone for your participation in today's meeting. Yes.
I was joking over there.
I know, I won't try.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, everybody. Hereby the motion, and I would like, this my last, no, there'd be no further business. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Right? Second.
Second, might as well second another.
Yeah, thank you for your participation today, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.